Hi beautiful people, you're welcome. I'm trying to get the best of the screen. Yes, you're welcome to my channel. This is Locsnchronicles and my name is Opayemi. You can call me Opsy baby, Opsy sweetie, Opsy lovey, anything nice. How are you? It's been a minute. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, I make videos on social work, and generally on my chronicles, my life as an immigrant originally from Nigeria in the UK. So if you love this kind of content, please subscribe and yeah, just follow me on my Instagram, Locsnchronicles. It's the same name. So nice to have you. And if you're returning, you know I have so much love for you. Thank you so much. Sorry about the mess in my room. My daughter is currently bunking in my room because we've got family from Nigeria staying with us. Just want to talk to you about how I knew, how I chose mental health practice, how I went into mental health. So it's story time, let me tell you. So when I was thinking of becoming a social worker, and I told my manager at work, then the job that I was doing, that I wanted to go back to uni and I was going to leave my job and I was going to go and study social work. A member of my team was off, and it was hush hush. Nobody wanted to say, well, nobody shared it, and this was around the time I was planning to go and study social work. Just before I left, I think few weeks or few days before, this person came back to work, and when I saw them, I was like, oh, where have you been? And they looked so lean and they lost so much weight, and they were like so different from what they used to be. They used to be very boisterous and just happy and bubbly, and they came back looking very subdued, very low. And this was after they'd been off for about 3 to 4 months. And I met them on the corridor, and said, hi, where have you been? And they were like, oh, they were rough sick. I was like, oh, like nobody was really saying what, where they were, and nobody was really sharing the dates. And they were like, yes, because it had to do with their mental health. I was like, oh, okay. I had very, very minimal knowledge about it. I didn't even know so much about it. I didn't understand why anybody would just like want to end their lives. I didn't understand why somebody would just pick up a razor and want to cut themselves and inflict pain on themselves. I had no understanding. So they were very low, and that they'd been off because of their mental health. And they said that they heard that I was going to study social work. And I said, yeah. They said, when you go to study social work, can you go into mental health? And I was like, okay. And they said, those people saved my life. Those people saved my life. The people in the mental health team saved my life. I'll be gone if not for them. And it was just the seriousness and how they said it, and the look on their face, and how it was just, I can't really explain it. They were saying to me, if you're going to go study social work, work in mental health, that's something that will be very suited to you. I've known you, I've worked with you, and I know that people will benefit from meeting you in mental health. And I said, thank you. I hope you're okay, and I hope you're getting better. And they said, yes, it does take time, but they needed to come back to work. So that was my first introduction into somebody telling me about it, or getting any inspiration for mental health. But I didn't think much of it. So at that time I didn't think much of it. So I went to uni, and as you know, in the UK, social work is a generic course. We study social work generally. We don't even study mental health. We study the legislation around mental health, but unlike nursing, where people go and study actual mental health nursing, social work isn't like that. You just study social work as a course, and then you decide wherever you want to go after your studies. So the only time I started thinking about where I was going to work, or the first opportunity I had to think about it, was when placements came. And the very first placement, as I've said in many of my videos, I chose children's services because I thought I'd never worked with children and I wanted to challenge myself. I had my own kids at home, but I felt like it was good to have some professional experience working with children. So I requested children, and then I went in there and I thought, no, it's not for me. It won't be for me. I mean, now I feel a bit different. I feel like I might be able to do it. You know, having gathered some experience, not in children's services though, but in generally. But that time I was like, no, children, I cannot work with children. I could not work with children. So then I thought, yes, my next placement was going to be adult. But by that time, I had a family member who had also studied social work, and they were working in mental health, and it made me see the opportunities that could be open to working in mental health. And I started thinking about it, but then I didn't really take it seriously again. I was like, I would work wherever there is a job, and I would practice wherever I could practice. So it was time for our second placement, and I requested adult setting. And there was someone who came. You know how you have sometimes external teachers coming in to teach in your uni from like places of work. They just come and tell you how it is, like how it runs, what goes on there. We had someone from the mental health team who came to talk to us and just give us knowledge about how they practiced. And I kind of fell in love with adult mental health. And we had other people from adult settings who came to talk to us about just adult social care. And it just felt boring to me. Excuse me. I just felt like it was so boring. How could I just go into adults and just like, sorry, now I know better, but then I felt like just prepare packages of care, support people get into homes, and support people with carers and things like that. Now I know that they do much more than that, but at that time that was the way I felt. I felt like it was boring. At that time, because of that person who had come to talk to us, I opted to do my placement in adult mental health, and I went to speak to the person who came to speak to us at uni and said I would like a placement. I was being proactive, and they were like, fine. They were going to give the university a place for me, and they did give the university a place for me. But guess what? The university gave my place, which I believe was my place. It probably wasn't. They gave the place to somebody else. So therefore, I was back in children's services. And if you've been watching me, I'm sure you know this part of my story. And I was very salty and I wasn't happy. But I went to do my placement in children's services, and it turned out that it was a really bad experience. And I just crossed out children. For me, I said no, I wasn't going to work in children's services because it just felt like all the really unkind social workers were in children's services. That was my feeling. That was what I saw at that time. Again, now I know that is not the case. I've met a lot of lovely children's social workers, and I know now that's not the case, but I had a really bad experience, and that's in my video, placement video. If you haven't watched it, you can spend some time to watch it. So everything was then leading me into adults. And then because of that message that I had from my colleague, which then kept coming back when I was about finishing, plus the person that came to speak to us in uni who came from adult mental health that I found really fascinating, plus my family member who was already practicing in mental health, who was encouraging me to come into mental health. You know, all of that was happening. Then I finished my placement, was looking for a job, and I think it was the second job that I applied to. So I think I applied for as a social worker, because I applied for a non-social work role as well in social care when I finished, and I was waiting for my PIN. So when I got my PIN, I think I applied for 2 jobs, and both of them gave me interview opportunities, but I didn't even bother going for the second one because this was in mental health, the first or the second job I'd applied for. And when I had the interview and I spoke about my experiences of when I used to work in the mental health hospital as a healthcare assistant, and they were also fascinated and they were also pleased that even though I was a greenhorn, I was fresh from the university, just qualified, I had some experience before social work, and it was in mental health. And they gave me the job, and I really wanted to become an AMP, which is, you know, like the icing on the cake for practicing as a mental health social worker. And I was really fascinated, and I went into it, and that's how I got into mental health. But basically, I think the main thing for me was God was preparing me for this even before I went to study social work. And all those experiences I was having as a healthcare assistant, and the fact that I was doing even a non-healthcare assistant job. I was working in an office when a colleague of mine was off with mental health difficulties, and they came back and they spoke into me. They were speaking into my future, and that just remained with me and, you know, influenced me greatly. And, you know, I have no regrets. The only thing I always say is I don't think I want to do this for so long, because you have to know when to come out, because you don't want to do it to the point where you yourself, you're damaged, or you become lacking in emotions, so to say. So, but yeah, I have no regrets. And to those of you asking whether you can practice in mental health as social workers, yes, you can. I'm not sure if I will encourage newly qualified social workers to go straight into mental health. I mean, I did it, so anybody can do it. But looking at what I've been through in these 2 years, I think it would have been nice for me to have developed a bit as a social worker before coming into mental health, because it is actually a lot. It is quite a lot. So my advice would be, it's either you've had some experience before in mental health prior to social work, or you just go and build yourself up a bit as a social worker and then come into mental health. Yes, so that's how I got into mental health social work. And I got my first job in a local authority, and now I'm working within the NHS as a registered professional in a mental health setting, basically in a crisis team now called Access Hub and Home Treatment Team. So that's my story. Are you a social worker? Where do you actually practice? How did you choose your field of practice? Or did you just go with the first job that came? I know some people who just applied for different jobs and they just chose whatever. They weren't really particular about wherever they were going to practice. Peace. They just had peace wherever they got the job in. But I believe that I was being led, particularly into mental health, to work with adults having mental health difficulties. Do you have any questions? Just leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. So till I come your way next time, just remember that I really do love you, and be good. Bye.